Shalom. First off, I want to give all honor, all glory, and all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Raha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS to rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of Israel, beginning with the 144,000, and to all the Akim and Akwaf tuning in. May this lesson be edifying. This is the brother Halal from the Great Millstone branch of Chicago, coming at you with another lesson in truth. And this lesson is going to be based on, the cover, for this article, by this economist, is titled the World Ahead 2026. And on the front of it, you see Navy ships, you see missiles, you see robots, moving packages. You see a cake with the number 250, representing America going into its 250th year anniversary next year on July 4th. And you also see a dollar sign with, cracks in it, which represents, the depleting value of the American dollar, which will eventually lead to what? A digital system. And eventually that Revelation 13 and 16, the MOTB, which this lesson will be more or less focused on that aspect of, this cover of this article that this economist made, man. Because Esau, Edom, these Edomites, beginning with these elites on down, they know what plans they're going to roll out for the future of this nation, man. And a lot of it has to do with surveillance and control over these Babylonians. So starting this all off, I want to go to the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 9, and starting at verse 1. It says, "He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself." And us, men of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, at the Great Millstone, as the watchmen, as the prophets, that's what we're doing. We're measuring the time diligently in itself. We're looking at all the signs that we see in the world. We're heavy into the news, heavy into the events going on around us. So that through that, using the scriptures, we can continue to edify, the body. It says, "And when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world," and you have many uproars going on. One of them is going on in Mexico right now. You can do your own research on that. The people are rebelling against the government in Mexico. And there are videos surfacing across the internet of, the police, and the citizens of Mexico, fighting against one another. The people beating the hell out of the police and the military police beating the shit out of the citizens, man. So we're seeing the uproars of the people, and there have also been many earthquakes across the world, man. Matter of fact, let's look up. Let's see. It says, this AI overview. It says the exact total number of earthquakes in 2025. Oh, it says it's not available. It says, let's see. It says an estimated 20,000 earthquakes occur globally each year, about 55 per day. It says some areas like Japan experience thousands of smaller quakes. For example, 13,501 earthquakes were recorded in Japan alone in April 2025. So it's been many natural disasters, many uproars of the people in the world, which is all signs and end time prophecy, which is an indicator that we are in the last days. Verse 4 says, "Then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like is all that is made in the world at the beginning and the end is manifest." Even so, the times also of the highest had plain beginnings and wonder and powerful works and endings and effects and signs. And we're seeing those signs before us, man. And one of the most major prophecies, being the MOTB, is almost upon us. So I'm gonna let this video play. May this lesson be edifying to the ministry and to the elect.
7. We've got the new Economist magazine cover here that's already raising some concern and people questioning, wow, I wonder what's going to happen here in 2026. Well, we've looked at this in years past, and yes, this thing has had some accuracy in calling out things that are depicted. This is a magazine that the Rothschilds have been connected to since, the inception, for a long time. Even though they were recently talking about trying to sell a portion of it, they're still connected, and this magazine is made kind of for the elites, and it's their way, as I see it, to telegraph little things that are going to come, that are expected in the time ahead. Now here, I'm just going to try to dive into this whole thing kind of quickly and point out some key things that I've seen. Because again, the track record is good for them in terms of pointing out things that have come true. And you can see America front and center. Right here, the flag, it's in shackles. Not a good sign. On its birthday, 250, which happens 4th of July of 2026. Now, there's a lot going on here. And you'll see plenty of robots, drones, bombs in the background, blasts, fires on the horizon, ships, and even a satellite or two. This one is shooting at a vessel. It's a weapon. And it hits a boat that looks like it's carrying containers, but they pop open and it's actually guns. And they fire a shot. And who's the shot going at? America.
Yeah, that's real heavy right there, man. Like Dabu, like your man's Dabu said, the cover of this article was made for the elite, man, because they know what's going to happen in the future, man. All of these things that we see, these wars, there's a quote, all wars are bankers' wars, man. These people have an extensive knowledge of what's going to happen. They know they know what the future of America is gonna be. And very soon, just like what we see going on in the UK, in these European countries with these digital IDs, the same system is gonna be rolled out in America very soon, man. Which is why, going back to this photo you see here, you see what the dollar bill, with cracks in it, man, which signifies the death of the dollar. But I want to read a few of these right here. This from I believe this was a page from Instagram. I had gotten this from the brother Arrows of Indignation, but it says technologies that will disappear by the year 2030. It says the first one, it says traditional keys. It says smart locks, facial recognition, and mobile access are starting to replace traditional and mechanical keys. Soon, most security systems will operate completely in the digital world. But after that, it says cash. So no more cash. It says physical credit cards. None of these things are going to be available in these coming years, man, because a digital system will be set up, man. Hey, Babylon the Great is going down, man. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 51, Salakia, in verse 7. It says, Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. A Babylon was what? A golden cup at one point. This is once referred to as the land of opportunity. The nations will participate in trade with America. They will receive benefits, checks and all of that stuff. Like it says in the book of Revelation, it said that these nations waxed rich through the abundance of America's delicacies. But now, Babylon the Great is in a very bad case. And their money, the system of physical cash is no longer going to be used in America in the coming years, man. And by the year 2030, according to many of these technocrats, according to Elon Musk and Bill Gates, all of these things, what physical credit cards, cash, traditional keys, all of these technologies are going to disappear by 2030, man. Do your research on Agenda 2030. That's why in this cover it shows you that, man. So this shows you what the future of Babylon the Great is going to look like, man. War. You see the syringe right here. Did not Bill Gates say that it would be another demic? Did not he say that there would be another lockdown where people would be forced to stay in their homes again because of these pestilences and diseases, man? So all these things are being rolled out, and what it's going to lead to is going to lead to civil unrest, which is why we see so many National Guard soldiers being deployed in these major cities, man. Let's get 2nd Ezra, chapter 15. I'll end it off with this. It's 2nd Ezra 15 and verse 14. It says, "Woe to the world and to them that dwell therein." The word woe means destruction. It says, verse 15, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, in invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes," which who do the kings and princes represent? The politicians. The president, the vice president, the governors, the people that establish order, the people that establish law, the Congress, the legislative, the branches of the government. People are not going to regard the higher ups, It says, "in all the course of their actions shall stand in their power." So whatever these people have the power to do, they're going to do it, man. When people start losing their mind because of how hard it is to sustain themselves in Babylon the Great, they're going to take matters into their own hands, man, because like the quote says, desperate times call for desperate measures. Verse 17, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." So ultimately, we're seeing the downfall of an empire, and we're seeing a new system, that is centered around technology that's being rolled out slowly but surely. We're already seeing it in Europe, and eventually it will come to the Western Hemisphere, to North America, man. So I hope this lesson was edifying. With that, I want to give all honor, all glory, and all praise to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Makakwadash, the Balanas, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS that rule well. Kwam Yesha'Allah, Wa Abad Babal, and until the next lesson.